Hey guys, what's going on? My name is Zenaton, and welcome to today's video for Legends of Runeterra. Today's video is going to be a video I like to do whenever we get either a big balance patch or a bunch of new cards. Today's video, we're going to go through 5 decks to try out in the new patch. These 5 decks are either utilizing some of the newly balanced cards or are trying to take advantage of some of the new rule changes, for example the play and cast merger, and sometimes I will include decks that are, in just my opinion, while they might not have been changed at all, might be better suited for the meta. I don't think I have any decks listed here that fall in that category, but sometimes I do. Quick note, these decks, I will say they are not completely fine-tuned, not 100% fine-tuned, but I will say this: they are definitely a good starting position, but kind of need to maybe wait a couple more days for a meta to start to take shape. So you know how it is with card games. You can, especially with some more reactive decks, you can look at your deck, look at the meta, and be like, okay, this deck is the meta deck. I want to try to counter that deck, so let me add this card that's really good against this deck. But this is still 5 decks that you can take as is, as shown in the video today, and play them on ladder to a decent amount of success. So let's go and look at the 5 decks. So first off, what is our first deck? Well, we're going to be looking at a deck that started off pretty bad champion. But it's one of the champions that got a buff. Probably one of the bigger winners of the balance patch. We're looking at an Udyr deck, specifically Action Udyr. So here we go. Action Udyr. Now I will say this really quick. Hyara Allseer is currently bugged at the time of making this video, and probably when the video goes up. Sometimes the Allseer does not actually discount the stance swap. The stance swap will just be 3 mana. Hyara Allseer is supposed to make the first stance you cast each turn 0 mana. Sometimes it's not, so quick note on that. It's actually kind of causing me a little bit of problems in terms of deck creation, because there are some decks I want to play that would play multiple Hyara Allseers, but I'm like, it's bugged, so I'm not going to play it. But it's still a solid card, even as a 1 of. Maybe even go up to a 2 of or 3 of when the bug is actually patched. But this deck is pretty sweet. It takes advantage of both the Udyr buff and the play cast changes. Now, because of the way action is working with how targeting works and playing and casting has been merged, action doesn't need a spell to resolve for it to be counted as a spell that's targeting a unit. So works pretty good with stances. Also, action has all these spells that are just targeting, so he accelerates his landmark even more, letting you draw more cards, maybe even giving your champ spell shield and +2/+2. Pretty sweet. A little bit of a grindy deck, but it doesn't grind as hard as some actual grindy decks like Shellfolk or Targon Piles, but still pretty grindy though, with action and Udyr making a lot of stances. Very, very fun deck. Definitely some cards in here are cards you can consider taking out for other things. One of Omen Hawks, mostly just here as an extra 1-drop. Amount of Rite of Negations, you can stay at 2, you can go to 1. I wouldn't recommend 3. Number of Quicksands can be something you can mess around with too. Maybe go up to 3, maybe 1, etc., etc. No Grappling Hook in this deck. You can consider Grappling Hook. I prefer Desert Duel because while we have actual spells like Shapestone, Inner Beast, and Troll Chant, and stances, sometimes I feel like Grappling Hook might be a little hard to cast, so I'm not a fan of it. But you can definitely try it. Also, the number of Inner Beasts, you can probably maybe cut down to 2 Inner Beasts if you want to play another card like 3 Sisters or Flash Freeze or something, but 3 Sisters is definitely a good card to consider as well. But very, very fun deck. Feels powerful, and it feels like it will be even more powerful once the Hyara Allseer buff is fixed, or bug is fixed, and once a meta starts to take shape, so we can actually tech this deck more. For example, maybe we don't even want Shapestone at all. Maybe we want only 2, etc., etc. But yeah, definitely go try this deck out. Very fun to play. Next deck, though, what do we got? We got Elites. You know, that deck that was kind of obvious it was going to be a thing, at least a little bit, because of the Garen buff. But is it good? Is it good? I don't know. See, there's the problem. I don't know if it's actually good. Win rate wise, it's not doing too well. But is that a case of a lot of people are experimenting with elites? They're not sure what build is proper. A lot of people are playing it and just don't know how to play it. Or is it that the deck is just not that good? I think the deck is solid. I think it is a very solid option for just a mid-range, go wide kind of pile, slow, snowball-y kind of deck. Not really my play style though, but I think it's solid. Currently, version I'm showing here is Mono Demacia for Bannerman. I think Bannerman is so strong. Turn 4 Bannerman, turn 5 Garen feels powerful in my opinion. Definitely has some hands that can just destroy your opponents. Very hard to answer. Like turn 2 Battlesmith, turn 3 Battlesmith is a very strong opener. But is it good? I don't know. And also there are other things that people are considering, like what's our late game? Do we want 10 mana Cythria? Is 6 mana Cythria enough? How many J4s do we want? 2, 3, none? Do we want another champ like a Poppy or something, or a Lux? I don't think you want a Lux in this deck, but maybe. Do we want to splash a secondary region like 3 or even 2 denies? Maybe a couple of quicksands? Maybe PNZ for some mystic shots? There's a lot of things to consider in this deck, but it does feel like there might be something here. But this is a good example, in my opinion, of a deck that needs a little bit of fine-tuning. I've seen a lot of different builds of this, some with Vanguard Defenders, some with no Vanguard Defender, some with 3 Squires, some with 2 Squires like I'm showing off here, some with Swiftwing Flight, I think is the name, the 4 mana 3/2 challenger that creates more challengers. It's like you play it and you manifest one of 3 different challengers. Then the 4 mana 2/1 with challenger that's also an elite that summons a copy of itself. There's a lot of different things to try out with this deck. But if you want to just play a slam unit on the field kind of mid-range, the deck is for you, and it's definitely solid. Now the next deck, probably one of the decks I've been playing a lot of. We're talking about Ezreal, Victor, Shellfolk. Now this deck, none of the cards in this deck were nerfed or buffed. So why am I showing it off? This is an example of a deck that benefits from the rules change. Ezreal is nuts now with the play and cast merger. Now, whenever you just play a spell, before the spell even resolves, Ezreal does its damage right away. So you can actually kill a lot of people at burst speed before you can actually interact. For example, let's use a group shot here. You have a leveled up Ezreal on the field, you have a group shot in hand, and your opponent has a unit on the board. Currently, or it used to be previously, you would play the group shot on your opponent's unit, wait for the group shot to resolve, and then the group shot would resolve, and Ezreal would then deal the 2 damage to your opponent's Nexus. Currently, with the rules change, now what happens is you have Ezreal on the field, your opponent has a unit, you play group shot. Even if the group shot doesn't resolve, your opponent counters it or whatever, or they kill Ezreal. Ezreal is doing that 2 damage before anything else happens. They have no priority window. They can't kill Ezreal before the group shot resolves. They can't counter the group shot to prevent the damage from Ezreal. He's doing that 2 damage no matter what. So, is this the best Ezreal deck? I don't think so. I think Ezreal Caitlyn is the better Ezreal deck, but this is a very scary deck. With Trinket Trade, you have so many cards, so many spells that can be created. It's a very scary deck. And I have definitely won some games that in the past I would never have won because my opponent would be playing like an anti-control deck that can actually kill Ezreal. But what I would do is I would play Ezreal and then just vomit out my hand, targeting my opponent's stuff, and Ezreal would just do like 8 burst damage. And they couldn't interact and play like a Vengeance or a Hush or anything in response to kill Ezreal. So, yeah, go check it out. And on top of all that, you got Shellfolk. You're still a Shellfolk deck too, so you can do the Shellfolk nonsense with pranks and trinket trades and manifest in general. And then you also have Victor too, who is mostly just here as a damage sponge, but also can give you some lifesteal too, so that's cute. But yeah, very, very solid deck in my opinion. Very fun deck too. So it's nice. And I really like playing it. So yeah, go check it out. Next deck though, what do we have here? I'll be honest with you. I don't think it's that good. I do think it's fun, but I don't think it's that good. What am I talking about though? I'm talking about a big fan favorite here. We're talking about Malphite. Specifically, Taliyah Malphite. Now, why don't I think this deck is good? So here's, in my opinion, the problem with Taliyah Malphite. Every time I look at Taliyah Malphite, I'm always like, why play Targon? What are we getting from Targon? Like, most of this deck, a lot of this deck, it's pretty much just Shurima, right? And I feel like, in my opinion, Taliyah Ziggs is just the better Taliyah deck. But the Malphite buff is really strong. Like, that stun they gave Malphite is nuts. And plus, Malphite with Overwhelm is crazy good. But I really just think playing Bandle City with Ziggs is just so much better. You get access to things like the Arsenal as well if you want that. But Targon gives you some good stuff. Basically, Chip. Chip is pretty much the biggest thing. You could throw in some other Targon cards too, like Star Shaping, Hush, but Quicksand kind of, ever since the Quicksand buff, Quicksand's kind of a little bit better than Hush, slightly in my opinion. But yeah, there's definitely some consideration. It's pretty much Malphite in all honesty, if we're being honest with you. Malphite's Malphite. But yeah, like, Malphite with Overwhelm. That's what we're doing here. Just give Malphite Overwhelm. How do we do that? Absolver, Herald of Magus. You can play more Heralds if you want. I wouldn't recommend it. But yeah, definitely a deck that is very fun to play. Needs a little bit of fine-tuning, though. Maybe you want more Rights. Maybe you don't want as many Sunforgers, and you'd rather play Star Shaping for that alternate win con. Maybe you don't even want 3 Malphites. Maybe you want to do like 3 Taliyah, 2 Malphite, 1 of Zoe, 1 of Aurelion Soul even. I feel like the big challenge with Taliyah Malphite is finding a reason to be in Targon over Bandle City. And I don't think Malphite and Chip are enough of a reason to be in Targon over Bandle City. Sure, you can also argue, well, you get healing from Sunforger. Yes, that's right. Bandle City doesn't have healing, but I'm not really the biggest fan of that. But yeah, very, very good deck to play here. I'm not sure if this is the best Malphite deck. Maybe Malphite Yasuo is better. I don't think Yasuo anything's good in all honesty, but Yasuo is very fun to play. Maybe Malphite Leona's a thing? Who knows? But yeah, I definitely think Malphite might have a chance now with that stun effect. Stun on play effect now. It's very, very strong, very annoying too. So yeah, go try it out. I'd love to see some more Malphite. He's a very cool card, just a great guy in general. So I'd love to see some more Malphite in the meta. And our last deck. This is a deck I've been playing a lot too, and I've had some pretty good success with. Lux Jace. So Lux Jace, huh? Deck's been around since for a while now. Pretty much since Jace came out, Lux Jace was one of the first ideas people had. So why am I recommending it now? None of these cards were buffed. The play change, just like Ezreal. The play cast merger benefits Lux insane. I've casted so many expensive slow spells or fast spells previously, and my opponents would be like, oh, that's cute. You're casting like a very expensive spell, like a Shock Blast or Assembly Line. I'm gonna kill Lux before it resolves with like a Vengeance or whatever. And I'm like, okay, that sucks. Whatever. Now it's like, okay, I have a Lux on the field. I cast Assembly Line, instantly levels up Lux, and I get a final spark. Even if my opponent has a vengeance, at least I leveled up Lux, and at least I got the final spark. And that's pretty much the only change with this deck. Outside of that, though, everything else is pretty much standard here. Definitely a lot of things you can play around with. Do you want to play the Forge Landmark? Do you want Vanguard Sergeants? Do you want the 4-mana Mage Seeker? Do you want rallies? Do you want more PNZ removal? How many Albus Ferrises do you want? Do you want Bright Steel Protector? How many Forge Chiefs do you want? Etc, etc. But it's definitely a fun deck to play. Very, very fun. In my opinion, it's more of a mid-range deck than a control deck, but it's, even for a guy like me who's more of a control player and doesn't really like to play mid-range too much, it's still a fun deck to play because Lux is a fun champion, casting spells is really fun, and doing a lot of damage with Albus Ferris is also really fun. So go and check it out. Go and take this deck for a spin on the ladder. Is actually doing really well on the ladder for the past few days, so I highly recommend it. Anyway, though, that is all 5 decks. I hope I have given you some inspiration or even a deck that you would like to try out on the ladder for this current new patch. Very fun patch. As outside of Ezreal, in all honesty, if it weren't for Ezreal just being a menace with the play cast change, I'd kind of like the changes. Some changes I'm just whatever about, like, I don't know, Vladimir buff. Like, so what if Vladimir has fearsome? But I think a lot of these changes are good. I really just hope they hotfix Ezreal, maybe even revert the playcast change until they fix Ezreal, because Ezreal is terrifying to see. And of course, fix some of the bugs like the high aura Allseer bug. But Udyr is fun to play. Lux feels nice. Well, I was just complaining about Ezreal. Ezreal, Victor, Shellfolk is fun. Elites are finally seeing play a little bit, which I know some people actually hate that, some people like that, but they're seeing play for the first time ever, pretty much. So yeah, that is going to be it for the video. Hope you enjoyed it. I'd love to hear your opinions, what you've been playing, what you think is going to be good in this set. Maybe you just think the older decks that were previously in the game already are just still better. Maybe you think there are some decks that weren't seeing play before can come back, like Ezreal Cannon's a deck I've been seeing. Also, quick note, all these deck codes will be down in the comments below, just so you know. So yeah, I'd love to hear your opinion on this patch and these decks in general, what you think of it. And if you guys just enjoyed the video in general, I'd love it if you could leave a like or a comment down below. Always helps me and my channel out. And if you guys want to keep up with the Legends of Runeterra content, you can always go and subscribe to the channel as well. Also, if you want to watch me play some Legends of Runeterra, you can go and you can go and watch me play some Legends of Runeterra over on Twitch at twitch.tv/Zenaton. Anyway, though, with that all said and done, thank you all once more for watching this video. And talk to you guys in the next one. Bye.